Chapter 16 of the Adventures of Diggeldy Dan. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Shasta, Oakland, California. The Adventures of Diggeldy Dan by Edwin P. Norwood. Chapter 16, in which Dan joins the very biggest circus. Never had Gray Ears taken such stupendous strides, said Diggeldy Dan as he once more went on with his story. So fast did he move that in less than a minute we had reached the edge of the light that spread like a fan round the tents. And then we plunged into the midst of it to find ourselves in the very backyard of the circus. Through the maze of red wagons, the two of us went, past little white tents that shimmered with light, and next, in much slower and more methodical fashion, picked our way through the groups of playful, plumed ponies, each decked with trappings that shone like stars. Past these went the both of us, past these and strange men and strange women too, all dressed in gay costumes of every color and hue. But at the sight of the latter, Gray Ears warned me to drop down on his back and hide quickly away in the long winding vines, and when I had done so, without once being seen, he headed straight for the rear of the greatest of tents, from whence came the sound of the circus. How it fell on the air and fell on the ear, a mingling of music and the hum of the crowd, blended with hoofbeats and laughter. Now naught save a curtain divided us from all of it, and this Gray Ears thrust back with a swing of his trunk, and then, in the space of much less than a wink, what wonders came into view! There were people to the left of us, people to the right of us, and still more across from us, all terraced in masses around a tent so tremendous that its far ends were lost in a shadowy haze. There were pretty ladies to the left of us, pretty ladies to the right of us, and pretty ladies in front of us, all mounted on horses that ran round the rings. There was a ringmaster to the left of us, another to the right of us, and a third just before us, each arrayed in the latest of fashionable dress, and high up above us were splashes of red and dashes of blue that were reflected from the sides of the massive round poles that held the huge tent in its place. There was the sheen of the sawdust and the gray of the roof, and clusters of golden lights that flooded the air and flooded the ground, and the clusters of silver lights over the rings at the ends that looked in the distance like bits of the moon. And into the midst of this hoopla and whirl, into the heart of the very biggest circus, stepped Gray Ears, with me hidden away on his back. So quickly, indeed, had he come through the doorway that those in the rings and those in the crowd did not know of his presence until he was well into the tent, and then he was discovered from all sides at once. "Hey, look it! Hey, look it!" cried those to the left and those to the right. "Well, of all unheard of things!" the pretty ladies exclaimed as they brought their mounts to a halt. "Now tell us at once!" the three ringmasters demanded, each stamping his foot as if to resent it. "What's the meaning of this strange interruption?" "Yes, do so right now," every fair rider protested, as she gave a toss of her head to prove that she meant it. But for answer Gray Ears merely kept on his way, down the track that circled the tent. Still onward he went, around the most distant ring, one of those with the cluster of silvery lights that looked like bits of the moon. And trailing behind in most persistent fashion came the trio of ringmasters, all talking at once and urging that Gray Ears be gone to his station. Yet never a sound did the big fellow utter until he had reached the ring in the center. "Cling fast and be ready," then came his command, as the end of his trunk brushed the vines near my ear, and kneeling and holding the placard on high, he gravely bowed to the crowd, and bowed to the riders, and bowed to the ringmasters three. "Found!" they all cried, as they read the words I had written. "Found by Diggeldy Dan." But who, puzzled all in the very next breath, is this one called Diggeldy Dan? "And where may he be?" questioned the ringmasters three, as they all cracked their whips for attention. "Yes, where is he?" demanded four separate voices, each of the four of them supplying a word, while into the ring stepped the men who had spoken, all wearing black suits and high hats of silk, and mustaches as dark as the tips of their boots. "We," said the first. "Will," added the second. "Reward," spoke the third. "Him," finished the fourth, and each drew a purse from his pocket. At the very same moment Gray Ears put down the card, and lifting both me and the vines from his back, laid the queer-looking bundle at the feet of the four. No sooner had he done so than I thrust the branches aside, jumped to my toes, and bowed low to those at whose feet I'd been placed. "Who may you be?" exclaimed the four in surprise. "Why, the one who found Gray Ears," I cried in reply. "None other than Diggeldy Dan." Now, at the sight of my face and my polka dot suit and the sounds of my tingling name, all the children immediately rose in their seats and began to shout and sing. "Oh, Dan, Dan, Diggeldy Dan, oh, Dan, Dan, Diggeldy Dan, do play some pranks for us, Diggeldy Dan." But at this the four frowned and held up four separate hands, whereat the three ringmasters again cracked their whips and called for all to be silent, and then the four opened their purses. "No, no, not a penny," cried I, as I watched them, "for it's not that kind of a reward that I'd like best to request." "Aha!" said the first. "Oho!" winked the second. "What then?" queried the third. "Is your wish?" asked the last. "Just to stay with you always," I answered the four of them, "to be one of your clowns, to cut pranks for the children, and sometimes see Gray Ears the elephant." "Granted, most gladly," each and all of them cried, while the children added their welcome. "This very night you shall take your place with the rest, so make ready at once to join with them." I answered this speech with another low bow and then skipped to where Gray Ears was standing. At a nod of his head, I mounted his foot and held fast to his knee while, amid shouts of delight from the children, the big fellow set off in very grand style toward his home in the menagerie tent. "Gray Ears," I questioned as we came almost to it, "now do tell me what it was you said to the watchman, and what it was you whispered in the policeman's right ear." "Why," began he, "but see what is happening there, on down the tent." What I saw as I looked was whole dozens of clowns pouring in through the curtain we had passed when we came. Peal after peal of merriest laughter attended the sight of them, but amid it and the music we could hear voices calling, "Oh, Dan, Dan, Diggeldy Dan, where's Dan, Dan, Diggeldy Dan?" "What?" I whispered, said Gray Ears, again answering my question, was simply, "The children are waiting for us." And from the sound of the shouts that are now greeting our ears, I think I wasn't far wrong. So go now, go to those who are calling your name." As he finished, he gave me a gentle shove with his trunk and turned to go into the menagerie tent, while I skipped gaily away to join the rest of the clowns. And with that, ended Dan, you have heard the whole of my story. "Did Gray Ears ever run away any more?" asked Camel. "Time's up, called Hippo, who had on this day been placed in charge of the watch. "Away to your places then," ordered Diggeldy Dan, "and tomorrow we'll meet once again, for though my tale's at an end, we may safely depend that another will soon follow after." End of chapter 16.